Welcome to Growing Up the Age of Your Emotions podcast. I'm Dr. Melanie Empowers. I am a professional certified coach and I have a doctorate in management of organizational leadership. I hope you enjoy our episode today. Dr. McLean Sampson is a PhD trained social work scholar, professor, author, and empowerment coach who helps high capacity women build self-trust that holds, especially in the moments that matter most. As the creator of the Savage Self-Care Framework, her work bridges research, relational depth, and lived experience to guide women out of self-abandonment and into integrity-led decision-making, emotional responsibility, and grounded authority. Her background includes advanced training in clinical social work and extensive research on maternal mental health, including postpartum depression and the systemic, relational, and psychological factors that shape family well-being. She brings both professional expertise and lived experience navigating addiction, divorce, and the complex emotional terrain of parenting through crisis. McLean Sampson is our guest today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Growing Up the Age of Your Emotions podcast. And I'm here with Dr. McLean Sampson. And today we're talking about continued growth, reflection, and self-care. McLean is going to share some of her experience with us, and I'll ask questions, and then we'll have a conversation, and we'll just see where that takes us. Welcome to the podcast, McLean. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Melanie. I'm excited to be here.
All right, McLean, you just recently wrote a book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, I would love to. The book details a year in time. It's like a snapshot of the moment I dropped my teenage son off at rehab across the country, rehab for mental health and substance use addiction. He was 16 until a year later when he is graduating from the youth program, like the aftercare, where he was still in Arizona by then. And I wanted to tell this story from a mother's perspective. And so the book details my personal journey of having to let go, having to walk through a parallel process, really, of trying to rebuild myself and do healing on myself and really figure out how I wanted to have a new kind of relationship with my son, because they tell you in rehab that if the kid comes back to the same family dynamics, the same home environment, they're much more likely to relapse. So I took that assignment to do my own inner discovery very seriously, and the book details that. And there are some journal excerpts in there. There's some little bit of research to support the self-care framework I've come up with. And there's also lots of references to the self-help books and resources I used.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the name of your book?
It is called Savage Self-Care. It's kind of in the window. Savage Self-Care, A Mother's Fight to Save Her Son and Rebuild the Trust She Thought She Lost.
All right. I have my copy. So can you tell our
Yeah.
listeners where they can get their copy?
Yes, it's available on Amazon right now. It's available in paperback and on Kindle. So
Great.
Amazon, and we can include the link if you need to.
Okay, well, we will do that. We'll include the link along with your bio. But I'm really excited to talk to you about growth and self-care and self-reflection because I did read a lot of your book. I haven't finished
Oh,
the
thank
entire
you.
book, but I have read it. I brought my, I keep my Kindle in my bag so that when I'm waiting or if there's an opportunity for me to get a few chapters in, if I'm out somewhere, then I will do that. Even if I just want to take a break, I have my Kindle with me. So I have been reading your book, and I found that a lot
Wonderful.
of the information in there can be very useful to people who may be experiencing similar situations or the same as you, or if you're just looking to take care of yourself in a different way, just some different ways that we can get in there and continue to grow because we never stop. There's always something new that we can learn about ourselves, something different that we can do to support ourselves, and that self-reflection really does help with that. So thank you for the book, and thank you so
Mhm.
much for being here today. So I wanted to ask you, what is one area of your life or leadership where you're still actively growing, and what is stretching you right now?
Yes. So I am not only an entrepreneur who is a coach and an author and a speaker, I am also the Dean of Research at our Graduate College of Social Work. And so I am really challenged to fulfill both roles in a way where I feel in integrity. And I really think where I'm stretched most, well, a couple ways is I am so self-aware that I'm constantly aware that I'd really like to be focusing full time on the coaching, the writing, the speaking. But what pays the bills and what I earned my degrees for is this academic role. And I value the people I work with and I value my boss. So I want to do a good job. So I often my signs of burnout will come from if I'm noticing I'm putting all of my energy into the academic job because it requires a lot of like quick responses and building other people up. And then I'll notice like I haven't been pouring into myself, which comes through journaling, writing, trying to get speaking engagements, trying to grow this business, right? So a lot of my self-care lately, when it comes to leadership, involves action, things like setting boundaries and enforcing the boundaries in mostly in the academic setting, like not being available all the time, really trying to coach myself through like this is not an emergency. I can I can move another priority here or there, and learning to be just highly organized, as we were talking about before the podcast, which I really think I notice it's a form of self-care because if I put in the work in the beginning to be organized and to put everything on my calendar and to stick with that structure, I feel better long term. But it really does require some investment on the front end.
Yes, yes, you're right. It is a form of self-care because,
Mhm.
like you said, as we were talking, I realized that when I am organized, when I plan out what I need to do, be more strategic about it, I feel better about the entire process and my end results. But when I'm not, when I'm being ad hoc, or
Hmm.
if I deviate from what I had originally started to do, then um I get anxious. The anxiety comes in, and then I feel like I'm overwhelmed a lot
Hmm.
when I do that, and then everything just seems a lot bigger than what it is. And I think that approach, or that thought process of being very strategic or just planning out, that covers your work life, life in the community, your home life. I mean, just period. You can just do that with everything that you do, and I think it does help you with the self-care, because it is saying, okay, let me do these things, but I want to do them so that I can have some peace about it while I'm doing it,
Yeah.
versus just being really flustered about things, or feeling like I don't have enough time, or I have all this to do. And then you start worrying, and then future thinking
Yes.
and all that stuff comes up. So I think that's a good approach. But I never heard anybody say that it was a form of self-care until you just did. So I like that. I think that's going to be something that I'll have to really think about, or to help
Me
me really
too.
think about it.
Me too, because it's like I made that connection, right? And then you deepened it and kind of confirmed it. And I'm like, you're right. I do feel better. So I think I'm going to have to move that as, front of mind. That's kind of the fundamental thing that you do that will make other things easier. And also what I find for anybody else who does these jobs where one, my academic job is highly intellectual, my coaching and my entrepreneurship requires I be intuitive and creative, right? So
Yes.
that's another reason where I will feel split. And I notice that when I'm more organized and structured with time, it invites the creativity in. Like I have to structure when I'm really on my game, I structure 2 hours to working on my signature talk. No other emails, nothing. And I notice I will be a lot more creative and connected to my inner truth, which is what's required when we're doing coaching and working with other people to help them discover their truths, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, but what tends to get in the way of your growth? Because that is growth, being able to thoughtfully prepare to transition or at least adopt another form of work. Being an entrepreneur, you're wanting to have speaking engagements, you're an author, and then you also have your faculty position at the
Right.
university. So
Yeah.
what tends to get in the way of your growth at times?
Well, one thing I've noticed that tends to get in the way, besides not being proactive and structured ahead of time with how I spend my energy, is I really have a fear of missing out. Like I really do. And I only thought it happened socially, and I noticed it happens professionally, right? Because I get asked to do lots of things, to be on committees on the academic side, and then maybe to be in like networking groups on the entrepreneur side. And I want to do it all, and I want to do it all the time. And
Hmm.
then I get frustrated that I don't have time, right? So really catching myself. One thing with boundaries I've been trying to work on and that I talk to people about is set a boundary with yourself. You know, you have to really, for me, I have to pause and be like, where, how will I do this? If I say yes, when will it get done? How will it get done? And how does it help my growth? So I kind of do that, those questions for myself. And
Yeah.
then I think, like many women, I also don't want to let people down. And so when I'm really operating at my highest level, I'm pausing and I am making sure if I commit to something, I can give it 100% my integrity. Maybe not my energy, but 100% I'm going to give them what they need. I'm going to feel good about how I gave it. And that if I can't, I need to say no,
Yeah.
because it lets people down even more when you commit to something and then you don't even do it as well as you said, or you keep saying, oh, it's coming, it's making. So I really am working on trying to gatekeep myself a little bit about what I say yes to.
Yeah, that's a very common just activity I think that people do. They'll take on more than they can
Right.
complete instead
Hmm.
of saying, "Hey, I'm not sure that I can do this," or "I may need some help. And maybe I can't do it by myself." But you're right. I would rather for someone to tell me up front that no, I'm not going to be able to do this instead of saying they're going to do it and not finishing or not
Yeah.
doing it right or
Hmm.
being late with it,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
finishing on time. So yeah, that that resonates with me a lot because
Hmm.
I don't like that if I delegate something as a leader, if I delegate something to you, then tell me if you need help or if it's something that you can do or not. I don't want you to tell me right before it's due that I wasn't able to finish
Right.
it. And I think people do that because they don't want to let people down.
They
And
don't
you're
want to let
right.
people down.
It
Hmm.
hurts less when you say it up front than if you are expected to deliver something and then you don't do it. I think that's worse. Yeah.
Yeah, because if we think about it, you can only let a person down if you convey a certain expectation. So it's healthier to set a realistic expectation from the front end.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's a moment you paused long enough to hear
Hmm.
something you had been avoiding?
Hmm. Well, I think that for me was the moment of dropping my son off at rehab because I've been in this busy bee cycle since the kids were born. My son is now 19 and my daughter is 17. But I got a divorce when they were very young. I was already working on the tenure track. So I've been used to a life that is busy enough that I could not be conscious. I could actually avoid certain things. So when I made the decision to drop him off and then actually took him and had to leave him at a place and see him in my rear view mirror, um, I started writing that day. I've always been a journaler, but I started writing that day like this is the pause. I think we all go through life thinking that the time will come when things will slow down, where we can maybe reevaluate things, where we can do the things that we love and that we're passionate about. But I find that that never has come, ever since I started graduate school, pregnant kids. It's the pause doesn't come unless you take advantage of something like this, which is a major life upset, or if you reorganize your life in some way to have a pause. So when that pause came, and I started reading this book that they recommend through rehab called Parallel Process, it says that parents have to work on their own negative patterns, their own method, or their own way of being dysfunctional, their own way of avoiding connection, their own way of like, what are you doing as a parent that is preventing you from being your fully authentic self, from being healed, really? Because that's a whole nother story, right? Is like when we go into parenthood, if we haven't really worked on ourselves and healed our own wounds, we kind of reenact those and we perpetuate patterns. So the pause for me was taking that time to, go to therapy, to start going to Al-Anon so I can understand what my son is going through, but also to stop trying to control his process and to really focus on what I need to do for myself to be healthy and how I can be present for my daughter who is still here when really what I wanted to do was just obsess about how my son was doing. So that was a very big turning point in my life. That was a big pause.
Yeah. Sounds
Mhm.
sounds like it.
Mhm.
How was that being able to be there for both
Mhm.
children who had different needs at the same
Yeah.
time? And I'm sure a lot of parents would love to
Yes.
hear how you navigated through that.
Yeah. So one thing to know about me is I'm always going to keep it real. So I will tell you realistically how it was exhausting. From the time my son was from the time he was like 5 from kindergarten, there were noticeable things going on that needed to be attended to. Something was going on. He kept getting in trouble in school. We were getting divorced. Could it be that? Could it be learning disabilities? And then my daughter, who's a couple years younger, was the easiest baby, the easiest child. She never demanded anything. And so naturally, I was putting more of my energy and attention and worry on him. So, how I was handling it was truly parenting in different ways at all times. Like I would,
Wow.
try to connect with him in a way and set structure and boundaries, and then turn to her and kind of parent her in the different way, which is more like she's very independent and she needs to figure things out herself, which all kids do, but anybody with a kid who has maybe some learning delays or cognitive processing issues, whatever, they have a lot harder time figuring things out. And when they're trying to figure things out, they're literally almost burning down the house or running into traffic, right? So that was how I dealt with it before rehab. And then I took advantage of the pause when he was gone to really reconnect with my daughter and ask what she needed and follow her lead. I think a lot of humility is needed. I think a lot of grace for yourself is needed because we do know that kids need to be parented. Each child needs a little bit different. um, you need to tailor it to each child. Like in general, you can parent with the same values I did for both kids. But so I think really taking care of yourself and making sure that you are attuning to each kid and what do you need to do with yourself to be able to do that. So I can
Mhm.
give a really quick example if we have
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
So, for example, looking back, I learned during the while he was gone, I was really working on myself, and I still continue to learn. This is a long process, right? Is that when my son, who is highly sensitive and very reactive, that's kind of how he was born, it's his disposition, it really would trigger me. Every time he had a tantrum, a meltdown, I felt hot and prickly, those that sensation you get when your adrenaline spikes. So
Yes.
I would feel that way. I would feel very triggered as like I'm doing everything right. I'm doing things differently than my mother did. Why is this kid still falling apart? And so what I learned now that I wish I would have known then was that I needed to pause and really learn how to take care of myself, how to self-regulate so that when he's escalating and he's losing it, I have tools to take care of myself because I kind of knew how to do it, but I
Yeah.
did it in a way that was super exhausting. Like I was very
Mhm.
hard on myself about it, right? And
Yeah.
so I was really wearing myself out in the process. So I'm hoping that that will help people is that if you can really be radically honest with yourself, like what is it about this tantrum by this tiny little person that is making me feel so out of control that I want to get in a car. I used to have this fantasy I'm going to get in a car and it was a station wagon for some reason and I'm going to drive to Alaska and I'm not coming back. Like it was such a, I've never even been to Alaska. I don't drive a station wagon, but what I had to tune into is this is telling me I want to escape my life. What is it about what he's doing where he's really doesn't have the control that's making me want to escape my life? It's
Yeah.
because I feel like a failure. Okay, why do I feel like a failure? How can I work on that? So hopefully that will help people who are hearing
That's
this.
that's real honesty because I'm
Mhm.
sure that there are parents who I know some people who go through similar situations like that, and I'm not sure how they process it. I've never really talked to them about it, but I've seen that where it's like a domino effect. Like they
Yeah.
get upset, then it upsets you, and then the whole house is upset
Oh,
when
yes.
could I have done something different so that it wouldn't affect me that way or affect other people who are around? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So the next question I have for you is, after a difficult moment, how
hmm
do you process what happened in a way that leads to clarity instead of shame?
hmm Yes. So like I mentioned before, I'm a lifelong journaler and it's really important for me. I used to take it for granted. And then I've kind of learned, no, this is a way that is helping me achieve clarity. And achieving clarity helps me respond calmly, right? Achieving clarity helps me reach these big goals that I have. So for me, I journal. I just had to do it yesterday. I say have to because it's not like I'm like, dear diary. It's really like something where I go and I call it a brain dump, where I'm like, nobody is listening. And I have to, this is important too. I have to make a boundary with myself. I am not going to judge myself while I write because there's something very helpful about putting everything you think and feel on the page, even if you hate yourself in the moment, even if you hate your kid in the moment. Like you have to be totally honest and then you have to be compassionate with yourself. You have to say, of course, you feel like you can't stand your kid right now because he's been screaming for 5 hours. Of any person with a nervous system would feel stressed out. It's
Mm,
okay. So I think this is a really important part that we don't talk about as adults, but I know a lot of us try to teach it to kids is that when you're having a strong emotional reaction, or maybe you acted in a way that you regret, it's really important to be really honest about what you did and to then hold yourself accountable by seeing what you did that contributed to the problem, but also hold yourself accountable for self-compassion and grace. And then what are you going to do differently? I think that part gets missed a lot. Is now we've got like it's in the mainstream, like you need to be kind to yourself, and you do. But also, you need to change that stuff. You need to change whatever you're doing that is contributing to the dysfunctional situation. So I think self accountability, partnered with grace and compassion is what I do, whether it's through journaling, whether it's through talking with friends, whether it's through booking a therapy session. But I think those components are really important.
Yes, I would agree with you. But I wanted to ask you, how will you transfer what you've learned in how to communicate differently or interact differently with your son or your children? How can you translate that into a work environment? Like, are
Hmm.
there any of those things that you can transition over to working with your colleagues or people who report to you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, we are having relationships with people all the time. The obvious ones are, if you have a husband or a wife or you have kids or family. But we're also having relationships with our boss, with our coworkers. We show up in a way that then tells them how they should treat us. For
Hmm.
example, if I am showing up to my direct reports and I'm always late, but I'm telling them I expect them to be on time,
Yeah.
that tells them that I'm a hypocrite, right? It tells them that I'm going to have a double standard. That erodes trust in the team. Another thing that, besides integrity, I think of that as integrity, where I'm going to act the way that I say I'm going to act. If I say that I'm somebody that has an open door policy, then I should not be acting annoyed every time somebody pops their head into my office. So I don't say I have an open door policy. I say I believe in communication and I believe in boundaries with time. So if you want to talk, please just schedule a time. And I say, and if you want to just pop your head in and say hello, I'll have my door wide open, right? So I think communicating very clearly what your expectations are and what you commit to bringing to the table is very important professionally. I think I have found as I'm in this leadership position as the dean of research that me telling them clear expectations up front. Like I need for you to submit your grants 72 hours before they're due at the federal agency. That gives my team time to review them. Like I tell them what I expect, I tell them why I expect it, and then I give a process that will make that easy to do. Like here's the policy you can refer to, or here's the online folder that you can do that with. I've also found it really helpful for having difficult conversations because in a perfect world, we would just tell people, hey, this is what needs to happen, and they would just do it. But
Hmm.
anybody who has managed people knows that that is not how it works.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, the most difficult part of a project is the people, right? Managing people. So I think I strongly recommend take whatever HR courses you can to prepare for difficult conversations because it's
Hmm.
those difficult conversations where we say, hey, what you're saying that you're doing isn't matching up with what you're actually doing.
Right.
And for us to fulfill the deadline or fulfill the mutual goal here, here's what I need to see happen. Are you going to be able to do that?
Right.
And so I strongly believe in building up your communication skills. Another thing I've really translated is the ability to sit with discomfort and to sit with uncertainty because that shows up all the time in a workplace is that you will be uncomfortable with somebody else's communication style. I can think of a couple faculty members who just the way they communicate offends the people who I work with, my team. And so then I schedule time to talk with those faculty members and just say, I'm not sure if you're aware, but when you start an email this way, or when you call them when they're not scheduled or whatever, it's conveying to them that you aren't respecting their time. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you're aware of that. And so I think those kinds of conversations are so crucial. And almost all the time, the people I have the conversation with are grateful that they then understand better how their actions and their words are affecting other people. Because oftentimes nobody's told them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People don't know what they don't know. Yeah, and
It,
sometimes they're so unaware that something that they're doing is just a small change that they can make, and it'll make a world of difference. But they're unaware because nobody's told them. So you
Mhm.
speaking up and saying that, that's huge, because sometimes people will just talk in the background and not tell the person because
Yes.
they may have no idea that, oh, it's affecting you that way. I didn't intend to seem like I was disrespecting you or not respecting your time.
Mhm.
Let me do something different. But if I don't know, then, and you're just going along with it, I'm thinking everything is okay and it's not. And
Mhm.
then that's
And
how
yes.
people will want to change jobs too, because they figure, well, I can't work for this person, but they've never told the person
Yes.
that this is how, when you do these things, it affects me this way. And I think that sometimes in the work environment, people are not given that type of freedom to be able to speak that way. There's some kind of fear of retaliation because it
Oh,
happens.
yes.
Even though
Mhm.
companies will say, well, there's a no
Mhm.
retaliation policy,
Right. Come
but
on.
people still do it.
Yes. People are
They
going to
still do it.
people. Hmm.
Yeah.
People are going to people. And, I know your expertise is in emotional intelligence, and people are not taught emotional intelligence. And what we're
Mhm.
talking about is you have to have a level of emotional intelligence to be able to have the self-awareness and to be able to take it in and then to be able to do something about it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. It matters a lot. And like you said, there are courses to take. There are free
Yeah.
courses. There's articles to read. You can take different personality tests, different quizzes that are out there where you may not have to pay any money, or if you want to pay for a course, there's so much out there to offer anyone who's in a leadership role or thinking about becoming a leader, or just want to have more information about how to engage better with their colleagues or people they're leading, or just in their community. It matters because we don't if we're not really looking at ourselves, and this goes back to the self-reflection, if
Right.
we're not really paying attention to what we're doing and how it affects other people, and we're only thinking about what I'm doing and I'm thinking it's right, but I'm not getting any feedback on that, that's a
Hmm.
problem. I should be
Hmm.
able to have somebody as a sounding board, someone who's going to be honest and tell me, you know what, when you say things in that tone, and I may not
Hmm.
even know that I'm using
You
a
don't even know
tone.
you have a tone.
No. What tone? I don't know what you're
Right.
talking about. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so that would help me at least be more mindful and pay attention to how I engage and what I say or how I say certain things, because that, if nobody says anything, then it's just something that continues to be wrong and not addressed at all, versus telling people, and then everybody can feel better about what they're doing and how they're engaging with each other. So,
Hmm.
yeah. All right. Can you share a time when you broke trust with yourself
Hmm.
and how you rebuilt it?
Hmm. Yes. I think this is, again, another really honest answer, um, is that for so long, it's kind of generalized to other things, but since this is or I could generalize it in other areas, but I'll use a work example. Leadership is when I continued to complain about how unhappy I was at my job. This was before I was the dean of research. I was just a tenured professor, and um, complaining about something over and over and not doing something about it breaks my self-trust, because I think of myself and I want to be a person who does what they say, says what they do. And if you're going to complain about something in this one precious life and you have some control over it, you should do something about it. So that was several years ago when I reached that recognition of like, oh my gosh, I'm living out of integrity, not because I'm miserable at the job, because that's what I was telling myself. It's like I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm not doing my dreams. I'm not doing what I love. I'm doing this job that is for external reasons. It's for money. It's for status. Like the best job you can get when you get a PhD is to be a tenured professor, right? That's what they tell you in graduate school, at least. It's
Right.
not true. It's not true. That's what they tell
Right.
you. So, but what I realized was like, wait, that's not the problem. The problem is I am complaining about it and not doing something about it.
Mm.
And so I rebuilt self-trust by thinking, well, what do I want to do? I like these parts of the job, but I'm missing the things that are feeding my soul. And so then somehow, just synchronicity, I stumbled upon life coach training. And I really admire Dr. Martha Beck, and she has a life coach course. And so I started enrolling in that. And sure enough, it's such an easy fit. I love it. Brings all my clinical skills in, but also helps me dream. And so that's the way I rebuilt trust with myself. And trust with yourself is built by keeping your word to yourself. So even in these little moments when you keep beating yourself up, like, oh, I need to quit. Like I just had some major, ate a lot of sugar Saturday night. And then I beat myself up about it because it makes me feel bad and it makes me feel sick. Like it makes me feel like physically bad.
Yeah.
But I keep doing it, right? And so if I want to build self-trust with myself, I know that if I say I'm going to eat less or I'm going to stop by a certain time, I have to do that. And that builds the self-trust because otherwise you're just constantly providing evidence for yourself that you can't trust yourself. And it becomes this narrative. I can't trust myself around sugar. I can't trust myself around these kind of people because I'll just go off on them. It's like, no, you have to decide what you want to achieve and what you want to do. And then you have to hold yourself accountable for taking the baby steps to do that thing. And when you do what you say you're going to do, it builds self-trust.
Hmm. It absolutely does. And it does, especially when you can, because I often think about if I can't keep a commitment to myself, then
Right.
how am I going to keep it to other people? And why am
Yeah.
I always letting myself down? Why do I put
Right.
myself last? I should be first. It's like putting the mask on yourself first, then you can save other people. If I put it on everybody else first, then what about me? What's going to happen to me? So I think that that's
Hmm.
a very positive approach that you're taking. What ways has your leadership expanded as you've deepened your relationship with yourself?
I think it's kind of happened backwards for me. I started deepening this relationship with myself, and leadership roles were presented
Mhm.
because I never thought of myself as a leader only because I never had a title or a role. But I've been leading my whole life.
Yeah,
I lead in my friendship circles. I lead in my parenting. I've been a single parent and I have single-handedly, I mean, their father is involved. I'm not totally alone. But in my house, I am the leader, right?
yeah.
In our unit of three, I am the leader. But I just never thought of myself as a leader. And then, so it's been nice to kind of expand into leadership when I have such a strong sense of self. And
Yeah.
I've become so accustomed at holding myself accountable and knowing to not overpromise. So those things have been really helpful. And now with the leadership, I'm really I'm fortunate enough to have a boss that supports leadership development. And so I go to trainings on leadership. I took it one step further and became a Clifton Strengths coach that will be able to be one of the few faculty or staff at the university where students can call for coaching. And I'm hoping to make our college more of a strengths-based college. So it's funny because I really think that that's what's happened is that now it's like, and it kind of, life kind of works this way. is you want to be prepared when the opportunities come, right? So it's like you want to be prepared if a leadership opportunity comes, or you can't stand your job and you want to make a leap. You're
Hmm.
only going to be prepared if you have acquired the skills and the self-trust and the kind of sturdiness within yourself. You're
Right.
only That's what's going to prepare you to blossom in that role. It's not it's not a set of skills or, this very clear thing. It's like you need to be prepared to fulfill something larger without burning yourself out, without abandoning yourself. Because I see a lot of leaders who they just keep going, 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 going. They're working all of the time. They expect the other people that they work with to work all the time. And that is not how humans operate at their best. Like
Right.
we can do it for a short amount of time, but it really burns people out. And wouldn't you rather have people who feel seen, valued, heard, working with you? So you need to be the role model to
Yeah.
do that. And so I'm excited to be in formal leadership positions where I am role modeling what it looks like to hold myself accountable, to take care of myself, to have a work family balance when that it is not built in to the structure. I'm yet to work for a place that says we're family friendly, we support work life balance, that actually has structures built. They just mean they're not going to fire you for
Right.
having a family. So
Right.
we're all out here, all these working parents, working moms, especially, we're trying to do it all at work, 100% at work. And then you come home and it's 100% at home. And it's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That is so true. And right, just don't say you have work-life balance. You believe in that. Show me what that actually means. What does it actually mean to be able to support work-life balance for people? Because I
Mhm.
think that some companies will say that, but then they leave it up to the manager, or it's at the discretion of your manager,
Right.
or it's like, well,
Mhm.
how could the company believe this, but someone who works here and I report to them, they don't believe it. So I'm stuck. What do I do? Because the company policy says you do, but this
Yeah.
person who I report to is saying something totally different. um, yeah, that's interesting because one thing that I've noticed is that the guests who come on, we often, even though the topics are different, we often say some of the same things, and I love it because it's so we're aligned. That means that people have the same experiences. You've talked about
Yeah.
boundaries. You've talked about the work life balance and how people work their employees too much, want them to work 16-hour days and, come back early the next day and be 100%, at their job. And you can't function that way. And then they're not going to do their best.
Mhm.
You probably, if I'm there 16 hours, I'm probably working eight only. I'm just there 16
It's
hours.
true.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that's interesting that you said that. I said, my guests align. They say a
It
lot of
is.
the same things. Yeah. And you talked about
Yeah,
boundaries a lot.
I
That's
do.
really important to you.
It
It,
is. And it
yes.
didn't used to be.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, I used to think I was really good at boundaries because I say what I need and I say no a lot. That's what I thought boundaries were. But boundaries are actually a way of communicating what you're willing to do and how you need to be treated to operate best. And so, a big part of the boundary work that I was missing was enforcing a boundary. So,
Mm,
for example, with a work example, in our roles as professors, and then they add on an administrative role. It's not like something else is taken away. So now you're expected to do service for the community, teach, research, which nowadays means bringing in external funding. Then there are all the committees on top of things, right? And so when I've added it up, and you're supposed to publish. This is impossible to do within 40 hours a week. That's why a lot of them are working furiously at night and at 3 in the morning to write their papers. It's why people think that professors have the summer off, but you see them working. It's
Yeah.
because they have to keep writing. We have to write
Right.
these articles. You have to write these grants. You have to try to bring money in. So, anyway, um, a great example of a boundary is it's my responsibility to look at, to be really clear on these are all the expectations. How am I going to fulfill these? Okay, be honest, McLean. How much time can you give that? I'm committed to 40 hours a week. Can I make this happen in 40 hours a week? When are the hours? Because luckily I have flexibility. What does that look like? And then I have to say, I, this is an example of a boundary. I will not answer emails before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m.
Hmm.
Do you think people stop emailing me? They don't. A lot of people I work with work at 2 a.m. or they work over the weekends, like because of the reasons I was just describing. And my challenge is to not respond because it still tugs at me. It's always going to pull towards you. You need to please these people. You need to show that you're working as hard as they are, you know. So that's a boundary that is a great example of like you say you're going to do something, but the boundary doesn't really close the loop until you enforce it.
Hmm.
So I do not do it. And even if I secretly respond to an email, I put schedule send and it goes out at 8 on the next business day because I don't want to give the impression that I don't stick with what I say I'm going to do. Because I've told people and then I need to stick with it. So boundaries have really helped me um, with energy, conserving energy that's wasted on resentment, frustration
Yeah.
with people. It's boundaries with time too. Like I have a tendency to just go down a rabbit hole and spend 3 hours. Like I spent hours yesterday trying to just figure out how to properly make an ad that would have some impact
Hmm.
to promote my book. And I have to be like, okay, time's up. That's what I said I was going to do because I will just spend hours and then I don't get to the other task. So, yes, I have found a lot of peace by using boundaries.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your process because that I think some people don't go the extra um, mile to really establish those boundaries because how I want to be treated, what I accept, what my limitations are, all of that is a different form of boundaries. What I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, where I'm willing to go, how I want to engage with people. All of those are things that we can establish boundaries for. But I think sometimes people don't. They'll do it and then be resentful
You get
or
resentful.
practice avoidance. I'm not going around
Yes.
them because I know they'll
Yeah.
ask
I'll
me to
just avoid
do.
them. That's how I was for years at work. I
Yeah,
just can't work
yeah,
with certain people. I'll just avoid them. They don't answer my emails. I'm not going to answer theirs. And it's like those are the kind of things that build up resentment in you and keep you from having my dream career, right? Like where I have to level up. I have to really stop avoiding. I have to stop being passive aggressive in these moments.
yeah,
Like leaders have to be the visionaries. We have to really role model that dream that I have to role model the kind of work environment I wish I had, even if I
yeah,
don't have it. Yeah.
yeah. Be that, right?
Yes,
Live
you have to
live
be.
that. Yes. So that
Mhm.
you can when it does happen for you, you're ready. You can make the transition relatively easy. So that is great. It's just
Yeah.
been a pleasure talking to you. I don't want to
Thank you.
wrap this up, but we're getting ready to wrap up. I have one last question
Yeah.
for you. And what practices help you stay aligned with your values when external pressure is loud?
Oh, I love this because I see a lot of suffering happen professionally and personally because people are just misaligned with their values. They're really, I value transparency and maybe I work in an environment that thrives off of secrecy, that thrives off of vague policies, that thrives off of things that are not transparent. So how can I find peace in that situation?
Yeah.
So what I will do, for example, is I know my values very clearly. If you don't know them, there are lots of tools online that I personally, I've been trained in motivational interviewing. It's a clinical style that you use to talk with people that's very respectful. And there's an exercise that was created by those clinicians, and it's called the values card sort. And I just Google that and I find little activities online and I'll teach the students and I'll use it with clients. And it helps you really go from 150 values down to like, no, what are your top five? Because these are the ones that if you're out of alignment with the top five, you're going to feel resentful, depressed, anxious, and you're really not going to know why. But it's because it's your operating system, what guides you to fulfillment and really peace is out of alignment with what's going on externally. And the only control you have is to change what's going on with you internally. So
Right.
when we go back to this vision of, okay, McLean has transparency in her top five, but she works for an institution, and this isn't necessarily true, but she works for an institution that thrives off of secrecy and being vague. That bothers her every day, all day. What can she do
Mhm.
to control it? Well, I can start being transparent. I can say, hey, everybody, here's my process. Here's how I work best, and I'm going to enforce boundaries for how I work best, right? If there's a vague policy, I'm going to ask for clarity. I'm going to have that difficult conversation and I'm going to call my boss and ask for clarification on the vague policy. And then I'm going to teach others what that vague policy is really saying so that they feel empowered. Like I do all of these workarounds if there is something that is out of alignment because I'm working towards a life where my top five are in alignment in my
Yeah.
work and personally. But
Yeah.
there will always be external things that are at odds with those. So it's a really good exercise to learn the skill. How do I get in alignment with my values when I can't change what's going on externally? I mean, that's
Sure.
just gold, as you know, as a coach. Like, if we can help people figure that out, you can
Yes.
really navigate almost any situation, you know, and you don't have to stay stuck in the situation, but you've got to get through that day. You can't just quit that day. So it's
Right.
a
Right.
really useful. I really encourage people to know their top five values, and then you'll start noticing like, oh, that's why it's bothering me is I highly value communication, and this is really ineffective communication that we're doing right now. You know, so
At least, yeah, at least know what the values are so that
yes.
you can set boundaries around them too.
Yes, so many people don't know.
Yeah.
I always do a values exercise in our coaching. I usually do it around the second session. And then we kind of build what your goals have to be aligned with your values.
Sure.
How are your actions in line with your values? And it's such a good anchor. So
Yeah.
I love that question, and I can certainly provide a resource for like that values card sort I was
Sure.
talking about. Mhm.
Okay, then I was going to ask you if you could
Yeah.
share that, and then I can just share the link so that our viewers can access that, or the listeners as well. All right.
Yeah.
So we are wrapping up, and what do you hope your journey teaches others about trusting themselves?
Yes. So I hope that my journey teaches, and look, the book is out of here. This is the deep dive, people. The Savage Self-Care is really like how I came to a reckoning about I wasn't really trusting myself, and I was expecting my kids to trust me, my work to trust me, all this stuff. So anyway, what I'm hoping people can understand is you have to go through the muck before you get to the other side. You have to be radically
Mhm.
honest with yourself. In what ways are you not trusting yourself? Every time we abandon our own knowing, our intuition, we know what's right for us. We know that we value that transparency, but we're in a relationship where we're not getting it. You
Right.
are abandoning yourself. But there's always a chance to rebuild your self-trust. Because again, I
Mhm.
can't control that other person. I can't make him or her make me feel better about not trusting myself.
Right.
So it's honesty and it is really committing to building trust with yourself. And I really think that if people flipped that paradigm and we started focusing primarily on building trust with ourselves instead of trying to please others and do for others, then we please others and do for others in a much more aligned way. The self-trust has to be the starting point. That's what I'm hoping people will take away from.
And what's a good way for people to at least start building that? Like, what's a good starting place? Because some people may be unfamiliar with
Yeah.
how that would work.
Yeah, what I teach people when I always get this question when I talk and I say start with something small. Like what's something that you want to achieve? If it is exercise. A lot of people are always talking about diet and exercise. So I use this as an example. If it is exercise, pick something very small that you can achieve. I'm going to, my big goal is I really need to become fit. I need to be exercising all the time. I need to exercise 5 days a week. Start small. Pick, like, I'm going to walk 5 minutes a day and I'm going to do it um, on the stairs at work on my break. And then you set the teeny tiny goal and then you do the goal. And then you're like, hey, I kept my word. So do it again, 7 minutes next time. Hey, I kept my word. But it really is picking a tangible action you can take and doing it, saying you're going to do it and keeping your word to yourself, but really start small. The biggest mistake I see people make is I'm going to work out 5 times a week this year. And external things are going to get in the way.
Yes.
So also self-trust is built in those moments when you do something that you said you were going to do that you don't want to do. The exercise is a great idea. I said I was going to walk 5 minutes on the stairs, but I'm just going to respond to one more email, and then your 5 minutes are gone, right? It's very much like doing what you say you're going to do builds self-trust.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We have been talking with Dr. McLean Sampson,
Hmm.
and our topic has been continued growth, reflection, and self-care. You've been
Hmm.
listening to the Growing Up, the Age of Your Emotions podcast. I'm Dr. Melanie Empowers, and stay tuned for our episode coming up next week. Thank you, McLean, so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.